This week's lecture attempts to explain how we elect our presidents, as well as how we conduct elections in general. Uh, Now, in a small setting, such as maybe electing a club president for some, sports team or something, elections can be very simple. Everyone votes, says, I support A, you support B, whatever. Whoever gets the most votes wins. Maybe you have a runoff between the top two vote getters. That's it. In a large advanced democracy such as ours, it's a bit more complex. And that's both a strength and a weakness of democracy. It's a strength because if it was too quick and simple, you could have a rash decision that we might not serve us well as a country. I think even something like the vote in England to pull out of the EU. It's one shot deal on one day, and a lot of people in England are feeling a little bit of remorse and concern about that. So it makes sense to have something that sort of serves from some thought, some checks and balances, a number of steps along the way. However, if it gets too complicated, that in itself becomes undemocratic because people don't understand what's going on, and then it becomes hard to effectively participate. So it's important to understand and help you be a better citizen, all of us, to empower us to understand how the system works and what its strengths and weaknesses are specifically. Um, One thing we'll see is that our elections are always a two-step process. You have primaries that are usually in the winter and spring, followed by what's known as the general election in the fall, where we make the final choice. The primaries themselves are incredibly complex. And there's actually, when it comes to the president, each state has its own primary and its own rules. And there's a lot of debate over who gets to vote in the primaries, who ought to be able to vote in the primaries, how the winners are determined by the vote, what states vote when and what order, as well as a number of other things. And this has led both Trump, when he wasn't doing so well, and Sanders to be very critical of the system and to demand changes. And there may be some changes coming forth, especially as a result of Sanders and the Democratic Party. And we'll see over the next few weeks what changes maybe result. So take a look at those changes and try to understand, see where you feel about open and closed primaries and winner-take-all versus proportional victories. These are all explained in the lecture. In the fall, there's also controversy because in the fall we have a general election, which then leads into the electoral vote for the presidency. And some of you already know that the person who gets the most votes on election day in November doesn't necessarily become president. And so the lecture will try to explain why that is, how it works, and you can also then consider whether it serves us well or is simply something that's outdated. So enjoy this week's lecture. Hopefully in the midst of election right now, it'll help you come to appreciate what's going on. Best wishes.